There's an independent investigation, as all of you know, that is being led by the Attorney General, who named, I believe, some individual lawyers who will be in charge of that today, if I'm reading reports correctly. And certainly they respect that and believe that should move forward.
Will either of them be speaking themselves about these allegations?
I don't have anything to predict for you on that front. I'm here to speak on their behalf, so that's what I venture to do on a daily basis. Go ahead.
Before I start my actual questions, we heard all about dogs. We were promised a White House cat. What happened to that?
Where is the cat? Today's a good day for the cat. I don't have any update on the cat. We know the cat will break the internet, but I don't have any update on its status.
Okay. And has the president now ruled out nominating Shalanda Young for OMB director? Is she deputy for keeps? And you said Neera Tanden would have a job in the administration. Where are we on that?
Well, Neera only pulled herself out of consideration 6 days ago, if I'm doing my math. 7 days ago, sorry, if I'm doing my math correctly here. The president is committed to her serving in a role in the administration because he values her perspective and her experience. In terms of Shalanda Young, no, we have not made it. The president has not made a decision about who he will nominate. He thinks so highly of her that he nominated her to serve as deputy director of OMB, which is an enormous job in the administration. And once she's confirmed, she will serve as acting director of OMB, but I don't have any updates on the timeline or decision making for the nominee.
And people in the running for some of the ambassadorships have been told that Bob Iger has got the gig in London. Are you able to make an announcement today?
Well, they would be incorrect, given the president hasn't made any decisions about any ambassadorial roles. Go ahead.
On climate, John Kerry is on his first overseas trip in Brussels right now. What is President Biden hoping he's going to accomplish there?
Well, the president asked John, former Secretary of State, my former boss, to serve in this role because he knows about his, he's very familiar with his personal commitment to addressing the climate crisis, not just domestically, but of course internationally, which is the role that former Secretary Kerry is playing. This is an opportunity for him to engage directly, now that we've officially rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, to have discussions with counterparts, with officials that the former secretary knows well from his experience as Secretary of State and working on these issues for many decades, and I'm sure that he will be reporting back to the president when he returns.
And Kerry mentioned in his remarks that he wants to raise the ambition of the initial Paris Agreement. How much more ambitious than that agreement is the administration willing to go? And is there a timeline for when you guys are going to announce the 2030 emissions targets?
It's a great question. I think we'll wait for the secretary to return from his trip, and I'm sure he'll have a conversation with, of course, both Gina McCarthy, the president, the vice president, and others about what his recommendations are and what there's an appetite for out there in the global community, but I don't have any predictions for you at this point in time. Great. Go ahead in the back.
Hey, Jen. Joe Cleo with News Nation.
Yes. Hi. First time here, right?
Yes,
Welcome.
Yes. I'm a newbie as well.
Good. There you go.
So on the American Rescue Plan, there are two far-reaching measures. I think the child tax credit, which you've mentioned, and the Affordable Care Act subsidies that are both now temporary measures. There are some calls on the Hill to make them more permanent. Is President Biden interested in working with Congress to make them more permanent? And if you could please address some of the criticism that those two measures specifically have been getting, that they are not in any way related to COVID relief or stimulus directly.
Well, I would say if you're a family with kids, then the notion that the child tax credit is unrelated to the economy is an absurd notion. So I don't know who the critics are, but I would be surprised if they had small children. I would say the president had talked about making the child tax credit permanent during the campaign. He certainly is open to continuing to look for avenues to do exactly that. He believes that benefits like the $3,000 child tax credit that is included in this package are benefits that help address what he and the vice president feel is a crisis, which is the large number of women who are leaving the workforce and have left the workforce since the pandemic started. So he will certainly continue to look for avenues on that. What was the other piece? I'm sorry, you asked about the other one?
The Affordable Care Act subsidies.
Oh, of course. Look, I think one of the things the president is committed to, has talked about on the campaign, I should say, when he ran, was strengthening access to affordable and accessible healthcare. So one of the things we did was we reopened the period of time where people could apply to get access to the benefits from the Affordable Care Act. We've seen a huge influx of people who were not previously covered with health insurance do that, and he will certainly continue to look for ways to reduce the cost of health insurance, to look for ways to expand it, to make it more accessible, and certainly having lived through a pandemic, the need for greater access to affordable health care is pretty front and center for him and others in the administration. Sabrina. Sure.
Infrastructure, because President
Go ahead.
Biden has spoken often about the need for a two-step rescue and recovery approach to the economy. He's held many meetings on infrastructure and said the recovery plan would focus on infrastructure, manufacturing, and other issues. Were you saying that you're not sure there's going to be an infrastructure bill when I asked about earmarks?
Well, no decision has been made yet internally about, look, the president has not made a secret about what is in his Build Back Better agenda. He talked about it on the campaign trail. Infrastructure is a part of that, and it's something he's had a long commitment to. He's also had a long commitment to investing in caregiving, to doing investing in our manufacturing sector, to doing something about our tax system. So there are a lot of components of his Build Back Better agenda. What I'm conveying is we're still in a policy process internally about what the next part of his agenda will look like and what the format, the size, the order will look like. So that's all I was conveying, but certainly infrastructure is one of the areas where he feels there's opportunity for bipartisan support and for Democrats and Republicans to work together. Go ahead.
If I could follow up on that too. The president made overtures to Republicans when it came to COVID relief, inviting many of them to the White House, and at this point you have 0 Republicans in the House or Senate voting for this package. Is there going to be a similar effort to try to get Republicans on board if the next agenda item is an infrastructure package?
Well, he's already had 2 bipartisan meetings on infrastructure to date as he's looking to gather ideas and hear from Democrats and Republicans about how they feel we can continue to work together and rebuild the economy. I would say that while we don't expect or did not receive, I should say, to date, Republican votes for the American Rescue Plan, the Republicans in D.C. living in the zip code seem to be outliers in the country, given the majority of people in the country, the majority of Republicans support this package. So maybe it's a moment of self-reflection, but the president will continue to leave the door open to work with Republicans on his agenda moving forward. Go ahead.
Another process question on Build Back Better,
okay.
Which is, I know it's early days, but is the White House committed to getting bipartisan support for an infrastructure package, or would you rule out at this stage of moving that through reconciliation like you guys did the American Rescue Plan?
Well, the president's preference is certainly to work together in a bipartisan manner. That's part of why he's had 2 bipartisan meetings on infrastructure in the Oval Office. But we haven't made a determination about what's next in his agenda, and certainly we're not going to take that off the table in terms of paths forward that Congress may choose. Go ahead.
Is there enough money to deal with the surge of kids at the border, and has there been any discussions of invoking emergency declaration?
You mean in terms of opening additional facilities? Right. It's a good question. I'm happy to talk to our immigration team and see if that's part of the structural issue. It may, as I understand it, part of the issue is finding appropriate facilities and determining what process steps can be taken to expedite the processing. But I'm happy to talk to them about that and get an answer back to you. Go ahead.
An infrastructure bill package. There was a bipartisan push last year to knock down the payment of the top paid federal employee, the CEO of the Tennessee Valley Authority, who reportedly earned $15 million last year in compensation. There are Democrats in Congress who support this. The former president supported this. Some conservatives do. Does the Biden administration believe that an infrastructure bill should slash this $15 million compensation for a federal
I
employee?
appreciate the opportunity. The president believes everyone should pay their fair share, but we don't have a bill that actually exists, so we're not going to talk about what components would be a part of it or not at this point in time. Go ahead.
Well, at the risk of asking you what is one of the components in this hypothetical bill, a question from someone who can't be here today, Andrew Feinberg. President Biden has repeatedly spoken of both the need to upgrade the nation's transport infrastructure and his desire for the US to become a leader in zero-emission vehicles. So since the Federal Highway Trust Fund is funded by taxes on gas and diesel fuel, which obviously wouldn't be collected from zero-emission vehicles, does that mean the President will insist that any infrastructure bill will include a new funding source for it?
I just am not going to get ahead of a bill that has not been designed, formalized, finalized, packaged in terms of size, scope, or timeline at this point in time. Oh. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a great afternoon.